When you're looking at some characters in One Piece, not everybody needs like a long list of feats for you to understand what it is that they can do. The narrative does a very good job at letting you know what they can do on its own. Like this comment is saying that Jack has no speed feats comparable nor haki comparable to that of Luffy. And from what we've seen, that may be true. But just because he hasn't shown you these feats does not mean he doesn't scale to people that Luffy has fought at the beginning of WholeCake Island like Cracker that do scale to Jack. They're both third commanders of an Emperor crew. And a lot of people forget this, but Cracker was not somebody that Luffy could beat by himself at the beginning of WholeCake Island. He needed Nami's help over 11 hours to beat this dude. And even then, it was only by eating all of his crackers and becoming Tank Man. Fighting somebody like Jack, who was also a third commander of an Emperor, but he doesn't have like a bunch of resources for you to eat and get your energy back from. What does Luffy do versus him at that point in time? I don't necessarily need to see speed feats from Jack because I understand that the narrative has shown me that Inuarashi and Nekomamushi are not slow characters. Yet he fought both of them evenly over the course of 5 days while they got rest and he didn't. He got smacked with what was equivalent to maybe a small city, and he's just conscious at the bottom of the ocean waiting for somebody to come and pick him up. And I know that Luffy at the beginning of WholeCake Island was really strong, but do you think Luffy with Gear 4 is outputting more damage than Zunisha, the giant island-sized elephant swinging its trunk at Jack, doing all of this destructive power? If you think so, hats off to you, but I find that pretty hard to believe, at least at the beginning of WholeCake Island, because that's the type of Luffy we're talking about. Keep in mind, later on in that arc, he gets way stronger because he learns a lot of things about haki fighting Katakuri, like learning observation haki to the point where he has future sight. Yet when he takes that and he goes into Kaido's territory fighting Ulti, while there are several segments of the fight where he is showing that he has speed to outmaneuver her, she also shows that she has speed to be able to grab him when he doesn't want to be grabbed. In the process, forcing Luffy to have to go Gear 4, a stronger Luffy. This is the Luffy that learned future sight beating Katakuri. And Ulti, as every other Topiropo, is weaker than even Jack is. If Ulti is going to force Luffy to go Gear 4 just to deal with her full body form, what do you think Jack is going to do? Keep in mind, even though we didn't get to see the entire fight, him in his mammoth form was able to take on an entire Sulong army and win. And y'all see how crazy the buffs are that you get when you become a Sulong. This is not a small feat for him to do. This is massive. And the only reason why he lost is because the two strongest Minks had to go Sulong form after he already fought an army and then take him down. Luffy would not be able to beat the same dude that was able to do all of this at the beginning of WholeCake Island. That's just not going to happen. Like, there are literally levels to this. When Luffy first introduced Gear 4, that alone was able to absolutely dog-walk Doflamingo. There was nothing he could do. Doflamingo only landed one attack on Luffy when he was in this form, and that attack bounced off and did 0 damage. Luffy may as well have been Kaido to this man. And then once we step up the levels and go to a third Yonko commander like Cracker, without the help of Nami, Luffy loses right here. I'm pretty sure we all understand that because with Nami's help over 11 hours was the only way he was able to win. Third commanders are very strong. Luffy was in Gear 4 for a large majority of this fight, and Cracker had no problem keeping up with it. And if Ulti had little problem dealing with the speed of a Luffy that got way stronger after WholeCake Island, I highly doubt that Jack would lose to a Luffy at the beginning of WholeCake Island that couldn't even beat Cracker by himself. Jax has way more endurance and way more durability than that dude does. And we all understood that the biggest issue that Luffy had with Gear 4 is the fact that he can't stay in this form. And if he had to be in this form in the first place to fight people like Cracker, and even then he could not beat Cracker with just one rep of this move. He had to go Gear 4 several times. It would stand to reason that he would also have to go Gear 4 several times at the beginning of WholeCake Island to take down somebody like Jack. But if he doesn't have somebody there with him to help him after he powers down, he's going to get killed. Like that would happen with Jack, that almost happened with Cracker, that even almost happened with Doflamingo. So long story short, when it comes to characters like Jack, who a lot of their feats and a lot of their fights happened off screen, you can't use feats to try to say what it is he can and can't do. Even though he lost, we know he fought Fujitora and Sengoku, an admiral and a former fleet admiral. We know power-wise he's way stronger than Inu and Neku because at the same time, he was not getting tired fighting both of these dudes. He could take on a Sulong Mink army and beat them all by himself. And even if Luffy did pull out some ridiculously big, powerful move in Gear 4 to hit Jack with, he probably wouldn't be defeated by it. He would get back up just like he did versus Zunisha, whereas Luffy would power down, and in that moment, Luffy would be liable to get killed. So moral of this story, don't call Jack weak when even the strongest creature in the series was able to vouch for this man and say that he's not weak. Jack was a problem whether you saw it or not.